Hi and welcome back to Shrigleytube TV. This is episode 11 part A. Part B will be on Tuesday night. I've got so much content I couldn't load it all on my phone for one night. So in tonight's video, what would to say first was, if you're a returning viewer, welcome back, thanks for coming back. And if you're a new viewer, then I hope you enjoy the content and thanks for subscribing, etc. We're getting up there very slowly, but we are getting up there and starting to get... I got paid last month, like 40 quid. I was absolutely over the moon. But anyway, in tonight's video, I've had a chap come to me with a Hillman engine, a rally car engine. I had done the engine earlier in the year, but it's smoking real bad. Can you have a look at it? So it's had an air filtration issue. It's the filters are collapsed and the dust had got past and it carried on going and it's just basically worn itself out. But I do a full strip down, rebore it, sort the rear oil seal out, dyno it. Bit of a chat on the dyno, how the dyno works, because I know some of you guys in the comments have said, you know, it'd be good if you could do a chat on that. And then I've done a bit of a, not full videos, but I just got back from Bradford last night. I went to watch the Formula 1 stock cars at Bradford at Odsal Stadium. Absolutely awesome. And they had their Ministox World Final, which is the little minis, the old, you know, the A-Series minis, with like 11 to 15 year olds. Amazing talent. You can't believe how the way these guys, the way they drive these cars, unbelievable for such young people. But anyway, brilliant to watch that. And there was a guy that was in second place. I think his name was Jolan or something. He got robbed really because the yellows came out, but that's stock car racing. But anyway, he makes a lunge on the last lap, on the last corner. So fair play to him for attempting to win. You know, that's what stock car racing is all about. Anyway, I'm just going to put a few snippets of it because I don't want to put the whole video on, because ideally I want you guys to get in your cars and drive to these places to support the races, because without people going to watch them and paying to see the job, they'll end. So there's a little bit of Bradford at the end of the video, but it's mainly all Hillman. And then on Tuesday night at 7 we'll have part B, which will be all about the Vauxhall C20XE engine. I'll have it on the dyno running by then, because then I'm in 2 weeks time, I'm going to Jersey to service for his pal, and I'll be servicing for him as well, and we're going to do another video all about the Jersey Rally. Okay, hope you enjoyed tonight's content. Bye for now. Right, morning YouTubers. This morning I've got an engine on the bench. It's Monday morning. It got dropped off on Friday. Belongs to my mate Ed. The thumbnail I'm hoping will be a picture of the imp that he does the rallying in, and he had a problem with it smoking like mad. Now, I have already had a look at this engine once this year and put pistons in it and bored it, etc. So what's happened, I think we know we had a massive problem with air filtration. This is an extra bit of foam he's put on the air filters, but these were blocked solid and all the mud had gone into the engine before the last rally. He said it's smoking and breathing real bad. So I said, well, we haven't got time. It was like Thursday night. I said, all you can do is try and free the rings off by putting some diesel on the bores and stuff. So we tried all that. Didn't really work. Anyway, you'll see the picture on the thumbnail with the smoke pouring out the back of it. So I'm just going to do a quick autopsy. We're going to pull it apart. I'm going to see if we could just get away with, hopefully the rings are stuck in the pistons and that's making it breathe and smoke. But there's a chance they're not stuck and it's worn the top ringland because of the dust that's gone through it. So we'll have a look, see what's going on with it. Depending on whether it's going to be bored or not, depends on whether he'd like a rear oil seal conversion. As you can see, he steamed the engine up before dropping it off to me, which is very good. But as you can see, it's been hoofing oil out the back, probably because of the crankcase pressure, because these scroll seals require no crankcase pressure to work properly. As soon as the engine gets worn and starts breathing, then it just pushes the oil past the seal or past the scroll. So I'll stop waffling, we'll pull it apart, let's see what we see. Right, I'm just having a little chuckle to myself here. This is the rally car engine we just talked about. With now the cylinder head is off, and you can see straight away we've got an oil burning situation. And also we've got another issue with regards, you can probably just about make out the gasket is slightly egged there, which means we've been getting a little bit of detonation. Number 4 is extremely clean. But if we look, can you see, if I zoom in there, can you see this area? That's detonation, that. And it's just been rattling itself. It's probably been a little bit warm. I don't know whether the oil's had something to do with the burn as well that's cocked it up, but yeah, it's probably cream crackered this. The board doesn't look bad, as in scrope wise. It looks all right in that department, but we'll have to measure it. But just to give you an idea, I mean, this isn't a way of measuring pistons, but we've definitely got a bit of a rock on. And interestingly, if I shine a torch down here, I'll try and zoom in, I could actually see the ring gap, and it was like, oh my god, that's horrendous. Can you actually see it? You see the top ring there? And you can quite just make out there's a gap, and it's massive. It's like 1/4 inch. I don't know what's been going on there. It's like he's been running it in the Sahara Desert. But yeah, I'll just go on a little bit more about this. What I'll say is, head gasket, wet liner block. In theory, it shouldn't work because the head is bolted around the outside to the block here. The liner, which is made of cast iron, is sat on a shelf down here. So as the engine gets hotter, the iron doesn't expand at the same rate as the alley. So the head goes this way with the outside of the block, and the liner gets left behind. That's why when we do the race engines, we do more with a Wills ring, because the Wills ring has like a preload on it, so it's squashed, and it's a very small surface area where it seals, and that's got your best bet of holding the cylinder pressure in the chamber, in the combustion chamber on a race engine. But again, I think if you watch my other videos, you'll see I do a dry liner, which is a skin liner with a top hat, so the whole lot grows together. I don't like this old wet liner job. But anyway, it's not a big output engine, this. It's just a 998 with, I think it's got standard sport valves in it and a bit of a cam. So it's coping. We're not here to reinvent the wheel. We're just here to sort the smoking issue out. So we'll get these pistons out and have a laugh at the ring gaps. Okay, just took the pistons out of the poorly oiled smoky engine, and it's really obvious what the problem is now. The oil is really black, so this has just had a load of dust through it, and it's worn the ringlands out on the pistons. So the ringland is where the top ring sits. I'll just try and zoom in there. So can you see it flopping backwards and forwards? So what happens is, every time the piston changes direction, the oil goes behind the ring, and then changes direction, it goes to the top of the ring. So it does that. It acts like a pump, and then it basically smokes. So the rings are still intact, not broken, but it's not looking good. Them pistons in my book are for the scrap bin, and the bores, I've just put the top ring back in. It's an enormous gap. Crazy. Amazing how much it's worn. I've just got a new set of rings and put one in. There is quite a step on the bore, and obviously you can see there, I'm not even going to put a feeler gauge in because it's just enormous. It's probably up at around 1 mil 40 thou, that maybe a touch bigger. So yeah, I'm going to ring the chap up now and see if we can make a plan on how to get this back together, because I want this done and dusted rapido, because it's interfering with my work that's booked in to be done. Now that little bit of detonation we could see on the corner of the piston before, if you look, you'll see it's eaten down the side of the piston and tries to go behind the ring. Now it's a funny thing, combustion, but when you get an engine that smokes and burns a lot of oil, I have seen this before, and this engine's been out, he's done about, I don't know, probably done 10 rallies with it in the middle, in all the heat as well, when it was warm early in the year, and it didn't have an issue then. So I suspect that we've had like a dieseling effect from all the oil in the cylinder, which has caused it to pre-ignite and cause that detonation issue there, rather than it being an over temperature issue or an advanced issue or a gone lean issue. You know, it's just purely an oil contamination. It really upsets the burn, makes it do funny things. It's another subject which I don't claim to know an awful lot about, but I have seen it before. So I'm not stressed about that. I just want to make a plan with the customer, get this back together, and we'll go from there. Right, the smoke engine's stripped down now, and I'll just talk you through the next two operations. I've had a chat with the customer, and he's gone with the right idea, which, you know, we could have possibly got away with putting a new set of pistons in it, but I said, look, the wear in the bore's horrendous. Let's strip it down and do it properly. And he had an oil leak from the back of the engine, so I said, well, at the same time as stripping it down, we'll put it on a rear oil seal conversion. So this is the diameter where the scroll runs. That's the scroll there. It's like a screw. So if you look, it's like the idea is it winds the oil back into the engine all the time. It's just a mechanical seal. So you can see the blocks had a bit of an hard time in the past where the crank's been hitting it. So what we'll do is we're going to put it on the borer, and we use the boring head to to basically machine this back so that we can fit this in this insert in. I have done another video on it, but I'll just touch on it briefly when I'm doing it. And then this diameter here, we put this in the lathe and we turn this diameter down to 3 inch, and then that'll give us our diameter for the seal to run on. And then with regards to the bores, what we're going to do is, I've just measured these. They're actually like, I can't believe it, like 73.4 mil. So we're going to go 74, which is the next oversize available, which gives him 1040 cc's. So it's only 0.6 of a millimeter to take out, so that's 24 thousandths of an inch. So that's 12 thou side. So it's going to be a 10th thou cut and then 4 thou for honing. So we're going to have to make sure we're clocked right central on the bore, otherwise we might end up with a situation where it doesn't clean up all the way around, because the bore will be worn unevenly due to the way the piston tips in the bore. If you imagine it's got its thrust, it's doing this effectively. So we'll see how much it's ballooned when we bore it. I'll try and get a snapshot or something of that. So that's the next stage, and I'm going to crack on because this is interrupting my workflow. Right, just done first cut with this oily engine, the smoky engine, and yeah, got new pistons there lined up ready to go in, and you can see the wear mark. And I just took like 5 thou off that just to make sure we cleaned up all the way around. I didn't want to be ending up with it, you know, having to put liners in it. I thought we'll just put a small cut on. Let's just see if it cleans up. So I'm pretty confident that there's nothing else nasty in the bore. It's just this little part at the top where the pistons particularly rots with the grit and the dust there. So we'll machine that through that, get this all bored, and then we'll get ready to hone it and start building it. Oh, and I have also I've machined that rear housing now where the scroll was for the rear seal to go in. So that's all done. So we'll get it all clean next after we board it. Okay, a bit of an update on the smoky engine. I've just finished boring it. This is my Van Norman borer attached to an old horizontal miller. I think I've talked about it a few times before, so I won't go into too much detail, but I use this to bore all my blocks. So this now is size on size, so just starts to go in the pot. And the reason for that is the next thing we're going to do is use the honing tool to hone the clearance. So it's size on size now. We'll take roughly 3 thou out of it, and that'll give us our clearance, our running clearance, and it'll give it a nice hone. And then over here, I've been multitasking, which is pretty dangerous for me. I've got the crankshaft. Obviously, I've been through all this before in other videos. You have to put them in a 4-jaw, get them clocked up on the rear main, so they're dead true. And remember, you saw the scroll just 5 minutes ago on the video. I've machined the scroll off now. We turn that to 3 inch and give it a little polish, and then that'll get a full polish and a bath before it's fitted back in the engine. So all machine work's done now. We've got to do the honing, and then we can get on with building. Right, we'll start with a bit of history on this dyno. This is a really old Frau dyno, and it's purely analog. It has no digital at all. It's a water brake. So when we try and tune an engine, we want to load it up so we can see how it performs under load, because that's what it's going to be doing in the race car or the car or whatever. So it has, the way it works, inside this housing here is a big water wheel, and then it has little gates that allow water into it, and it's the water that breaks the loads the dyno basically, and that water absorbs the energy and the water gets hot. So what we have on the roof up here, that water pipe coming down, which some of you Fords might recognise, that is a centre section off a Ford XR3i Mark III. The water comes down from the top. I've got a 1,000 litre IVC on the roof, and that's full of cold water. So it comes down, it tees off. This one comes round here, and we have like what we call a closed loop cooling system. So the water from the roof comes into this. This is something I found on eBay a long time ago. It's a swimming pool heater. So the cold water comes in here, and then it comes out there, and then it goes into this. This is my header tank. This is off an old boat, and this also has an exchange element in it. So the idea, these are heat exchangers. So we've got the cold water from the roof going through them, and then it goes back down here, and then it goes into this tank underneath the silencer. That big tank is actually a fuel tank from an Aston Martin DBS V8, but there you go. And then it's sucked by this scavenge pump out of the bottom of there. So the water's finished with, and it comes into this pump and then back up that white pipe and back into the IVC on the roof. Now, I'm going to get confused here, aren't I? I'm just talking at the moment about the cooling system. So this is the circuit from the engine. So the hot water from the engine goes into the top of the header tank, and then it comes out of the header tank, and normally that would go back into your water pump on the boat, but instead we run it into the swimming pool heater, which is also a heat exchange unit, and then it comes out the bottom of the heat exchange unit. And it's really cool by this point that this water system from the IVC on the roof has took all the heat out of it, and it goes into the water pump, which is mechanically driven off the back of the prop there. I did used to have electric water pumps on here, but because I'm using the dynos so much, I just munched through them. I was getting through like one every 6 months, and they're quite expensive. So I just, one day I was in, if you can see, it's a bit of a Heath Robinson installment. I was like stuck, I needed to get an engine out, and I thought, I know, I'm just going to snot an imp water pump on it. And that's been good as gold, that. Anyway, so going back, that's the water system. So that's how we keep the engines cool on a dyno. We've got massive capacity, 1,000 litres on the roof, and this is the heat exchange unit. Now, moving around here, this is the clever bit. It's where the fuel lives, and that's what we run the engines on, obviously. And then, as you can see, this is the shaft that drives from the engine to the dyno. So the dyno is floating. So all this assembly here, if I lean on it, you can't actually see it move. But by just putting a weight on there, I'm effectively moving the torque needle, because the whole thing is on, this is a big bearing here. And then this, let's see if I can move it a lot so you can see. You can't quite pick up on it, but anyway, that all moves. So all it is as this is a 24-volt motor, which is attached to 2 buttons in my dyno control room, and all I do is I wind on either clockwise or anti-clockwise, and that allows more water or less water into the dyno. Now, obviously this is aftermarket, someone's put this on. Originally this dyno was like 1960s. You were meant to stand next to the engine and turn the handle to put more load on, but you know, I can't hear anything as it is because my ears are knackered from the dyno. So I'm glad I stand behind that glass wall over there now. And as you've probably picked up on, all this has been done on a bit of a budget. You know, when I set up on my own, I didn't really have any money available to buy posh stuff. So I just basically used whatever I could off bits off eBay to make it work. That's just a swimming pool filter as well, which I use to filter the water in case anything gets in it from the tank on top. So we'll not go too much further into that. So that's a water break. That's where all the magic happens. I don't actually know what takes place inside there. All I know is the water goes in. The more water that goes into it, the harder it breaks the engine. Now, this is the dial that measures the torque. So Heen and Froud have this system here where if you take the number 14 and multiply it by, I don't know, by 7,000 RPM, that gives you a horsepower figure. So I'll just get a calculator. And this is their system. Now I can't find a calculator. No preparation for the video. Right, so here we go. So if I pick any figure off there, say the needle comes round to 14 at 7,000 RPM. So if I type in 14 multiplied by 7, 1, 2, 3, it's 98 horsepower. So that's basically their way of doing it. But the way that we like to do it is we like to use the RPM and a torque figure. So I've written on the torque, so these relative figures, that's 73 foot-pounds, or about 72, 70 foot-pound there. So that's what I'm looking for when I'm through the window. And then all we do to get a horsepower figure is we multiply the torque by the RPM. So say it's 73, or we'll go again at 14. So we'll say 70 foot-pound multiplied by the RPM, and it's divided by 5252. So 70 multiplied by 7,000 equals that, divided by 5252 equals that. 93 horsepower. Right, so obviously I was measuring it at 14 and it must be slightly out a little bit. But anyway, you get the gist. So that's how we come across our horsepower figures. Now, the one more thing I wanted to say quickly was when we're tuning an engine, I have to decide how the best way, looking at the customer, the type of driver they are, what the best way of tuning the engine is, because you can tune an engine for somebody and actually slow them down by creating an engine with lots of horsepower but no torque. If someone's got a relatively heavy car with only 4-speed gearbox, then I try and detune those engines. So we don't do the 110 horsepower, we do like the 9500 horsepower, but with a milder cam, we get them to work from like 4,000 RPM, because on track they will be faster with a better spread of torque and less horsepower at the top end. Now, if someone's got a 5-speed gearbox in an imp and it's a lightweight space frame, and I know they can jockey it and they're good on the pedals, then what I'll do is I'll retune the engine with a wilder camshaft, and we'll get it to work from like, say, from 7,000 or 6,500 through to 8.5 or 9, and then they'll sit in that window. And the best way of describing it to you is the torque is what is the strength of the push. So every revolution, it's got a push in it. That's the strength of the push. And the horsepower is like the work done. That's the amount of times that it's taken into account. Obviously, from the calculation, you'll see it's multiplied by the RPM. So it's torque multiplied by RPM. So if you've got less torque, but lots and lots of RPM, you get a lot of horsepower, a lot of work done. And it's that work done that gives you the speed. That's, you know, if we can get the engine to sit between, say, peak torques at 7,000 and it comes on cam at 5.5, 6, if we can make it run between 6,000 and 8.5, that's where all the horsepower will be. You'll have 100 horsepower everywhere there, and that's what will project you down the straight and get you the top speed. So yeah, just a little bit of a waffle and an insight into what we're trying to achieve here, because like I say, I never forget a job I did for a chap years ago. He came to me as a new customer. I said, right, to get you out of trouble, you can borrow the work spare. So I lent him a spare engine, which was rubbish. It was like 85 horsepower, R20 cam, which is a mild cam. It was going in a circuit car. He went out and to get him to the end of the year, and he came back to me and said, that's a magic engine, Andy, I love it. He said, thanks for lending it me. I said, right, I've got your new one here already. This was ready for March. I said, got full race cam, blah, 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 105 horsepower, you'll be flying with this. And then when I spoke to him after the first meeting, I could tell he was disappointed. I thought, he's not buzzing off this. He should be flying with this. And eventually it sort of came out that it didn't suit him, because he was an early gear changer. You know, he wasn't a rev the nuts off it guy. And yeah, the lower power engine with more torque in a relatively heavy car worked better for him as a driver than the full race engine, which I thought would have been stonking, but it wasn't. So there you go. The problem with this job is every day is a school day, and I'm going to leave my waffle at that for now. Right, I'm back. I hadn't finished waffling. I just forgot to mention the way we keep the air changing in the dyno, obviously, is we have to have an air being pushed in through this one. This has got a fan on the roof that blows it in, and then we have a big scavenge fan here that sucks the air out. So because the air temperature in the cell is critical. Now, actually, to do the air changing properly is quite difficult with a sealed cell, because if you can imagine, the engine is hoovering a massive amount of air out of the cell. So I'll be honest, I leave my door here slightly ajar, because if you shut it, as the engine goes faster and hoovers air out the exhaust system there into the roof, you end up with you lose air pressure in the cell, which kills the horsepower, which I learnt the hard way. So yeah, interesting. I think a posh dyno cell must have some sort of like system for balancing the air. Obviously, if they're just having atmosphere being drawn in rather than being pushed in, then they're probably easier to balance. But because I'm in a residential area, I have to push the air in and suck the air out, because one thing I realised is, like a turbo on a turbocharged car, the noise, the sound waves, they can't pass a spinning blade very well. They lose a lot of their energy. So you can stand outside my dyno and it's absolutely quiet as a mouse on the path outside the workshop. You can't hear it because the noise just can't get past the blades. Now, the other thing I forgot to mention was this wall here. We built all this. This is 100mm of rock wool, and all these plywood boards with the rock wool behind, they're all mounted on bits of silicone with a cell tapper through them, so that the noise hits them and it can't vibrate through, and it does work really well. Even when you're standing here and talk, you can tell that it's, you know, the sound is really well absorbed. Now, the other thing I was going to mention was, this is the other dyno, which is buried in spare parts at the moment. Now, when I first moved into this unit, I was just had our first child, and long before the second one, and I was still really keen on the job and doing all sorts of different engines. So I bought this. This is, I think it's a DPX2, this Heen and Froud. This is quite a good dyno. This will do 1,000 horsepower, and it has this control unit. It's like again, I think they call it a closed loop circuit, where instead of having a handle on top that controls the water flow, it has something called a Moog valve, and it's a hydraulically operated valve that allows the water into the dyno and back out again. So it measures the load, it knows the speed and the control system. I can do a controlled sweep with it. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So rather than on my dyno, I have to just pick a site and then load it up. So I'll go to 6,000 and load it up there. With this, you could use the feedback system. So as the computer sees the speed increases, it will instruct the hydraulic pack and the Moog valve to allow more water into the dyno, so that, or less water into the dyno, so that the RPMs increase, so we can do a sweep basically. Now, I would still like to get this all rigged up one day, but I'm so busy with the Illmans that I'm just quite happy to do that for the time being. But there is a bit of a pipe dream there to get a V8 on there one day and do it. Maybe we'll do, I have got a V8 here, which is in the build for my mate with the stock car. This is an LS out of a Hummer. It's I think it's called an LQ9 or something, an LS6 engine. So I'm going to get stuck into that soon, and we'll get some video footage on that, and then maybe we'll bolt it on this dyno and try and get it all working. But we'll just see how much time's available. Right, chaps, as we're doing a bit of a talk on the dyno, I thought we'll load this up together. I've got my earmuffs and my eye protection. Might look a bit overkill. I'm not expecting anything to go wrong, but when things do go wrong, they go wrong very quickly, and you've got to give yourself a chance. So that's what that's all about. I'm just going to run him up, nothing crazy, just like 4,500 RPM. He's already warm, I already know what it's going to do. I'm just going to go through it again with you guys. I'll turn the fan on and then we'll run it together. Right, I hope you enjoyed the little talk on the dyno there. The reason we just did that, stood next to the engine, was just purely for your purpose. Normally I'd stand on the other side of the glass there, and I just went to like 4,500 RPM or something. It's just what I was looking for, just so you know where I was at. I was looking for things like if the breathing were to increase, to say the cylinders weren't sealing properly, or the peak torque of this engine is about 5,000. It's quite a mild engine. What I'm listening for is I'm listening for detonation, and the only way you can sort of prove that is by holding it under wide open throttle and listening and watching. If it had started to induce a bit of heat into the pistons and started to detonate, we'd have seen the breathing increase and the torque drop off. So That's the most important thing, ignition advance when you're dynoing an engine, you know. So I'm dead happy with it. It's no smoke, it's even oil tight, which is great. I'm sure the customer's going to love that because he's probably got quite a nice driveway. And yeah, I think he'll be all right with this. It seems to be doing everything it's supposed to do, so good result. I'm going to crack on with my XE engine now, like I keep saying I'm going to. Right, Bergerac's very kindly offered to show us round his little baby here. You love this thing, don't you?
Yeah, it's my absolute pride and joy.
I like the wheels. What are them wheels?
Another OZ, magnesium.
Magnesium?
Yeah,
wow. Lancia Italia. What is it? Is it like, is it in between his car?
It's called a Lancia Ypsilon or a Y. It was, it's basically a Fiat Punto in a frock.
In a frock?
Yeah.
And
so
mate,
1208 valve, powerhouse.
Tell me, it's obviously tight like you on the fuel. Mate, tell me about the diamond ring. Something.
Oh, the diamond ring. Okay, so the first owner of this car bought it from, it was in the Netherlands, at their equivalent of like Harrods, and Lancia had a pop-up shop. And because she was the first person that bought one, it came with a free diamond ring.
Oh,
so,
wow.
You know,
what a story.
Full leather interior, Alcantara everywhere.
Oh, look at it.
Icon, heated mirrors.
What's that? Is that out of Back to Future car?
So I do lots of night rallying and stuff in it, so...
oh, right.
So for that, yeah.
I didn't know whether if you got to like 1.21 gigawatts, you'd like go back in time in it. Mate, pop the bonnet, let's see this powerhouse. This is next week's treat. He's got something he's building over here. But we're not allowed to look at it now. We've got to save it for next week.
There we go, look at that.
It's a fire engine, the first fully automated in whatever they call it, robotic.
Yeah, they were the first engine completely built by robots, isn't it?
Yeah, they're awesome. Have you any idea how many head gaskets I've done on them over the years?
Yeah, they're a great little motor though, aren't they?
Yeah, heads off in half an hour, innit?
Non-interference.
Oh, right, yeah. You know. You'll like that, won't you? You'll like that. I bet he's never had a belt, has it?
It's had a belt.
Honestly?
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
New struts and springs all round.
I thought you'd be driving it around thinking it won't bend the valves. I'm not bothered. I'll just keep cruising.
It's absolutely lovely.
Mate,
how on earth they managed to design a car so beautiful?
Right, listen, mate. I drive a Hillman Husky, and I wouldn't be seen dead in that piece. I'm sorry, mate. There's nothing pretty about it. It's ugly. And while we're in your unit, look at all your cars. I just want to point out this. This is like the best photograph. Bergerac's leaving me this in his will. Can you see that picture there? It's like
it came off the wall of Garner's Motors in town.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah.
It's a picture of a Herald with Mummy and the two kids. That could be Dougie and Russell in there.
Nice little XK in the background as well.
Oh, look at the detail in this picture. Moggy 1000. Yeah. Early one as well, that. 2-door. Don't even know what those other cars are. What's that? That's the XK, is it?
Yeah, it's a 120, isn't it?
Wow. Awesome, mate. Why have we gone back in time? Right, that's enough of you anyway. Thank you, Bergerac. We'll see you next week when I want a full video of that.
Full tour, yeah.
Brilliant.
Fresh build.
Thanks, Bert. Right, Bert, I've just spotted these on the wall. What's going on here? KLMC Targa Rally. Have you been rallying that? Actually rallying?
Proper rallying, yeah.
Is that you and your pa?
Yeah, that's the Helio rebuilt a couple of years ago.
Lovely job that was. I do not know how you do such an outstanding job with the toolkit. Well, one day I'm going to video your toolkit. Show me that picture of you.
Which one?
James Hunt.
Look at that. Driven in anger.
Let me zoom in on that face. Oh my goodness, you look like a predator. Well done anyway. Have you won any trophies of it?
It's quite successful, yeah.
Wow. You know what you really need, don't you? A Hillman Husky, a Clan Crusader.
I do need a Clan Crusader.
Right, anyone's got a Clan Crusader out there?
Clan Crusader with a cage in it, yeah.
Yeah, he's a car dealer, so make sure it's not cheap.
That one.
213.
I like that one. I like that one.
Do you? You like all of them?
Yes, I like that one inside.
Yeah, green chassis, that's good, isn't it?
I want that one.
I bet you do. Is that a tongue dance? What's that, Dougie? You've got a massive tongue, mate. You're like a lizard.
Put your hands together, former 84, now number 1, the world champion, Tom Harris! And Tracy Ronson. Keep your eyes on Mr. Starter underneath the main stand. Watch your Mr. Starter! Are we on Retro